Hello, sit down, buckle up, because you're in for a beefy treat. Today I am going to show you how to bone out beef, and what I've got here is a thigh of a cow, what we call over here in the UK a top of beef. This is where all your joints are, that's where your top side is. Your silver side in Australia, that would be your outside round, your inside round, or in America, top round, bottom round. This here we call a flank or a knuckle, in America your sirloin tip. So what we're going to do, we're going to bone all this out and I'm going to show you how we get the joints. And we're standing in my butchery. It's coming along nicely. There's my new butcher's block. Fantastic. So first thing we're going to do then, we're going to get this on the block, and what we need to do is we need to take this shin off. You can leave it on the bone for ossobuco, or you can bone it. Fantastic slow cooking piece of meat. And then we'll get on to the money shot, get these lovely joints. We're going to trim them and tie them. Now the beauty of butchering the top is you don't need a saw, you just need your knives. So I'm going to use my, I know a lot of people ask about my knives, that's my 10-inch Victorinox steak knives, and kindly Victorinox sent me these absolutely free. I got my new 5-inch flexi blade boning knife, and they sent me this fantastic 10-inch boning butcher's knife. You know, I've always used steak knives and I fancied a change. I said, what do you want? And I got one of them. I can't wait to try that. So first thing we're going to do then is take this shin off. You have to excuse the camera angles on this, because obviously this is a big piece of meat. This weighs 35 kilos and it's a hell of a lump. So excuse the camera angles until we get it breaking down a bit, but I think you'll enjoy it anyway. So first we're going to do is take the shin off. So there's a natural joint there. I mean, this knife is so sharp. So we go through, and then, excuse my elbow, we cut to the joint. As you can see, severing that joint, and that's what your beef will look like. Nice dark red. So, done that bit. Now we get to this, the main event. Right, here's the tricky bit, the H-bone. What we're going to do first, I'm just going to take this. This gets called many things, an oyster. It's a cut on its own, this is. And obviously you only get 2 per beast. This is its pelvic bone. So just gently seam it out. And you can trim that up. And you could fry that up. We'll do that later. Let's concentrate on this. So what I'm doing, if you look into the bone, it's got a hole. So I just go around with the tip of the knife. Then we're going to take this H-bone out. Man, this knife is amazing. It's just like going through butter. And we're severing in there. There's a ball joint. See if I can do it the other way to show you. Let's just expose that a bit more. So we've just severed that ball joint. I'm going to continue just tracing the bone. The back. And there you have a relatively clean, which we'll trim up later by just going over the bone. Obviously we haven't left too much on. We'll trim that later. And then we've got one more bone left to take out here, but I'm just going to take bit of that fat off, so I'm going to use that when I'm tying up my joints, and just peel a bit of that fat and gristle off there. And what we're trying to do here is expose the natural seams of the animal, because obviously you don't need a saw, but what we do, we split it by using seams. You can see there's a seam running there, seam running there, and that seam there, and that's the seam I take the top side on. Some people take it on the bottom one, I take it that one, so it's just pure top side. Then we can trim that off the flank. So to take the top off then, first we need to remove that thick flank. So that seam I showed you, just put the knife in. And you're exposing the natural seam to the actual femur, the big bone that runs through the whole of this set of muscle. So what I've done then, I've just loosened it around from the bone, and I've traced it along the bone, you can see in there. And what I'm going to do is gently, in nice strokes, and you'll see start to expose so if we look face on at this two muscles, you'll see those two there are part of the silver side. That's a heel muscle which we'll take out, but if you can look just on the top, there's just a faint seam. Let's just start it off. The natural seam, as you can see, which separates those two muscles. So I like to get my hand in, just free it up. So very gently then, that seam, just take your time. See if I can try and get this on the camera for you. And all we're doing is releasing connective tissue. As you can see, I haven't cut into any of the other muscles. I'm just purely tracing those natural seams. You get down to the bone. There you have beautiful top side, inside round. Lovely that is. And all that's left to do is free up this silver side from the main femur. So what we're going to do, try and do it one-handed because I don't want to get away in the camera, is just basic boning out up to the bone. You release it, and there we have our three primals ready to convert into joints for eating. So just a quick recap: we took off our H-bone, our hip bone, then we seamed off our flank, and we seamed off our top side, and then took the silver side off the arrow bone, femur, and we're left with these. Now we've got to turn these into money basically. You know, you want to keep as much meat on the meat. I know that sounds silly, you know, and be really meticulous with your trimming, because you know you can eat most of this, and I shall show you that when they're finished they will be absolutely stunning joints. I've just checked over the camera and I've missed the part where I had that thick flank hanging down. You saw, and that first seam, all I did was cut straight across that natural seam, and that gave us our thick flank. So first thing we're going to do then is we're going to tidy up this silver side. There's this big heel muscle here. I mean, normally in the UK we just dice it, but I know over in the US they make steaks from it. So all depending on how I feel, we'll have a bit of a play with it, see what we can get out of it, because basically it's all about maximising the meat, you know. And if you were to sell this, it's all about the money. So what we're going to do, I just gently going along, just trim any meat off, put it in a pile, turn it around so you can see what I'm doing. Because what we do, we trim, obviously try and take as much off as you can, and what's left you go over again. Any fat you can sort out, get some good, really good quality mince. No horse meat in this. And all we're going to do, I mean, I would normally be doing this faster, but obviously for the camera I'm trying to get it all on there, so just bear with me. Just gently sheeting all the fat, separating the meat. I mean, this would be done really quick in a butcher shop. If I was doing this normally, it would be really quick. So just gently, and as you can see, it's starting to take shape. So just cut. That was that natural seam where I'd cut the flank off. And what we're going to do now is just gently skim out or sheet out this heel muscle. I mean, you could roast it, I suppose, if you're going to do it slowly, but you know, there's a big sinew, big muscle that runs through it. And all we're doing is just gently exposing the meat, and there's our heel muscle, and that obviously it's got a lot of sinew in that would need cooking slowly. But what I would do, I'll just remove this fat so I can just show you this muscle. Just skim off any fat and gristle. So we've got our heel muscle then. So there's the one which is not going to be good for anything else really but mince. Then you're left with these. This has got a natural seam again. Just expose it, and if you trim off a bit of that skin, turn it over, I'm going to just go down that silver skin just gently with the knife and get my knife right under, as if you were filleting, skinning a fish. Just gently take away that silver skin, and as you can see underneath there, some really good meat. You're just gently exposing the good stuff. That one on top there, just nip that out. And pretty much you've got a good chunk of meat there. So I'm going to just do that one with that one. Right, let's dress this baby up. So all I'm going to do is just gently work over it, and obviously if you see with my knife, I'm not digging in, I'm just like cutting a bit and just gently skimming away. Sharpen. I'm leaving all the meat on the meat and just taking away all the bits that you don't want to eat. You know, you get a fantastic piece of meat like this, the last thing you want when you're eating it is to have a big lump of gristle. I'm talking of gristle, there's a major bit here. So just with the tip of my knife, just going to go in just under that skin Same that way. Then I'm going to get my knife right in, up against it. I'm just gently going to skim it out. Your left. Excuse the camera angle. So we turned it round to the other side. Same again. Some silver skin just underneath. Just gently trimming it. Take a little bit of fat. I mean, I don't want to take too much fat off because you really need the fat to cook it. Just the bits I know that are not edible. For instance, that piece there. Get my knife under it again. As you can see from this way, I'm just gently skinning it. Now there's two schools of thought with this cut, this being the silver side, the outside round. Over in the US, they call this bit, if you look in there, there's a natural seam that goes down. The eye of the round, we call it the salmon cut. Now you can take that out and tie that up and, you know, joint it on its own, but what you will do then is you'll leave, if you just take that as a straight line, you're going to leave that muscle just going to waste. I mean, you can dice it, but if you were going to roll it, you want the most money. So what I do and what we do in England is we cut straight down through it and we tie that with that on, which I'll show you in a bit, and that leaves that lovely square joint to tie as well. And I think that's a way better way of presenting it and using it and maximising your profits, you know, with these joints. So I'm just going to work on this a little bit and take any more trim off I want, and then we're going to tie it. Right then, now we're going to tie these joints up. There is a video online, if you check upon the link you'll see how to do a butcher's knot. This is where we turn it into the finished product. So I just space them quite wide to start with. You'll see what I mean when it comes to the finished product. I mean, when I was butchering, I've said before, I was taught by an old guy, called Sid Nut, and his favourite joint was this part here. This is what we call the eye of the rump, where the rump steak sits, and that is my favourite joint. It really is a beautiful, beautiful joint, where the rump just tails off into the silver side, so you know, you've got a bit of a different texture, but that is my piece. So there's those two muscle groups prepared then. So what I like to do, square the ends off. That one's nice and square. Just nip that bit off that one. Obviously I won't cut it off that end. If I do, just a little bit, because obviously that's all good, and I'll just give you a rough idea. I mean, that it's a joint of beef. Right, we're on to the top side. Now what we need to do with this is we need to take off these gristly bits here. This is where it sits against the other muscle. I suppose you could call it the gooch if you want. And it's just gristle. So just get your knife in, just gently sheet it out. That goes to trim. I mean, I just go in with my knife, with my steak knife, underneath. Just nice strokes, straight off, and then same with that. I mean, like I said again, in the butcher shop I'd have been done this in seconds, but obviously I just want to take my time, show you guys how to do it. Just take that little bit of. So what we've got to do then, we're going to leave that fat on, we're going to turn it over, We're just going to work our way through the fatty, gristly bits on this side. So gently again, peeling away anything that we don't need. Get in there. That's actually a vein that runs through. As you can see, it starts at the top there, at the bottom here. Get your knife right under it, hold it, and just gently tip your knife, take it all the way around. Knife's out the other end. Just gently pull. And we've loosened it off from the other end, so we just get our knife in. There's one little bit stuck in there. That's it. We just continue as before, sheeting off any unsightly bits of fat and gristle, any silver skin, you know. I mean, you haven't got to worry too much about some of it. It will dissolve, but some pieces are thicker than others, but you can see it's exposing that lovely meat underneath. You don't need to do a lot more to that top side now. Just we need to joint it, ready for tying. Now with our top side or top round or inside round, there's several ways you can joint this. Obviously if it's a smaller one than this, straight down the middle you tie it, but this is all about getting more manageable joints. So what we do in England, we take that first one, which is the prime cut of the top side. It's one solid muscle, there's no sinews, anything runs through that, and we call that the corner cut, and that's the cut everybody wants. Obviously you look at that, it's a solid piece of meat, but obviously there's only 2 of those to each beast, so it's quite a prized cut. Next we take a middle, straight down. Another great piece of meat, but obviously you've got natural seams in that, but you tie it up. It doesn't affect any of the cooking at all. And then this third cut gets called all kinds of things, third cut, salvage cut. You know, it's got a few sinews, natural seams in, but still is a great roasting joint. Just take that off. What we would do in a butcher shop years ago, we would take the fat that you saw me cut off before, slice it thinly, smack it out, put it on top and tie it on. But a lot of butchers don't do that anymore. They just tie it up, and you know, and they'll give you the fat to go with it and cook it. It varies where you go. You know, you might get the other 1 or 2 still do it the traditional way, but I'm just gonna tie it up as it is. So there's that top side nicely tied up. As you can see, that's that one solid joint, the corner, the middle cut. Again, I just like to tidy them up. You know, it's what we were taught when I started. You get a lovely finish. So I'm just going to nip that point off. And obviously on this salvage cut, this third cut, still a great joint. Just take it off, and that's prime stewing. I'll put that over there, we'll sort that trim out later. And that gives you those top side joints. And the reason we tie joints, obviously, is to keep it all uniform when it cooks, you know, because some of these joints, you know, they taper off, but by putting some string around them, pretty much you tidy them all up and it'll all cook at the same time. So that's the top side done. So next we've got to deal with this third primal, what we call thick flank, top rump. And it's got one of the hardest bones in the carcass. It's this bone here, that really is rock hard. I've just cut straight across, we'll trim that up. But I mean, a lot of people, they steak this, they do all sorts of this. The reason why, I mean, in the UK we tie these as joints, is there's a lot of sinews which you have to sheet out. You know, there's a lot of seams, but just with a little bit of time, as you'll see in front of your eyes in the next few minutes, they come out brilliant. So just following that natural seam. Now this is a great little cut of meat, nice and tender, doesn't do a lot of work, you know, it just sits gently on the top there. But it's a case of just going round, taking any fat slowly take your time. If you look on the top there, just peel that gently back. You know, just get your knife in. I don't want to take too much fat. Like I said, I don't tie fat on these, so just what I think needs to come off. I mean, you can mince all this fat at the end, you know, there'll be no waste. You can make yourself some fantastic beef dripping. And you'll see at the end when I put it all together that there's hardly any waste. Just a couple of bits of sinew, obviously the bones, but they're not to waste because I should cut those into certain lengths and do some roast marrowbone, which is really hip at the moment. So I'm just going round, first of all taking off any of the loose skin. As you can see, there's some silver skin there, so knife just gently underneath, you can see it through the top, just gently sheet that away. I mean, you've got to take your time on this bit, but what you're going to be left with is some cracking roasting joints. And if you were obviously selling this, you're going to get more money for your roasting joints than you would if you just diced it. So what we do then, we've peeled that one muscle back, and we're just basically going to cut straight down the middle. And then you can work on these two separate muscles, and as you can see, once that's been trimmed of all its silver skin and its bits of fat tied up, you've got yourself two nice little joints. And the same with this side. What I'll do is I'll just show you a few ways of getting the bits and bobs out we don't need. So, like I said, just peel it back and you'll expose any of the fatty bits. It's really hard doing it wacky-handed, but hey, it's worth it to show you guys out there how we get fantastic joints from our great British beef. I should just take that bit out altogether. Now this just takes a little bit of fettling. As you're going to see now, I'm going to expose a real hard bit of gristle. See, my knife's just gently skimming over the surface. We're exposing it. There you can see that skin that I think you'll agree nobody wants to eat. I mean, over time, if you cook this long enough, it would eventually break down, but you know, these joints aren't really for slow roasting. So I'm happy then we've trimmed that out, and what I will do is I should put some strings around that and roll that onto this next one, just pretty much the same as before. If you see, again, there's another natural seam, not cutting into the meat as you can see. Just gently fettle that away with your knife. Fettle, what a word that is. And obviously that one piece of gristle we had a minute ago, it runs through here. I'm going to get my knife in, take it off, and that again can be tied. Now I would be inclined, if I had a fat basher, I've got a bit of fat actually, to put a bit of fat on that, which I think is what I'm going to do. Bear with me a moment. So there's that fat I cut off the top to start with. Cut me some nice pieces, not too thick, not too thin. I haven't got a fat basher, so what you do is you get like a fat basher and basically do what it says on the tin, bash the fat out, but this is nice and manageable. So I'm just going to take that kernel out there. I'm going to add another piece on there, like that. That will sit on top of there. I mean, it don't look anything special now, but once that's tied up, that will look fantastic. So that's those lovely 2 flank joints then. Like I said, we took the sinews out, took all the gristle out, bashed a bit of fat, put it over the top. Again, I should just skim the ends off to tidy them up. And then a lot needs to come off these actually. And I'll just give you a rough idea. If I just take that one in half. And what can be quite a scrappy joint ends up looking like that, which I think you'll agree is a lovely looking joint. Now we get on to the shin. Now I love boning these. It's one of the first things you learn because it's quite easy. Just make 2 marks there. Let's get this camera set up so you can see this. You can see the fat bit there. Just expose that lovely big shin bone. Just with the one hand, gently pull it away. You see how nice and clean that comes off. And like I said, bones won't go to waste. These will be cut into rounds and used for a bone marrow dish, which I think is going to be one of the first ones I'm going to cook in this series of this top of beef. As you can see, pretty much it's a wasp there. Go on, just land. Nearly. There you have that lovely shin bone, which I know the dog would love to get hold of. It's nearly as big as it. My dog gives a whole new meaning to the saying, fit as a butcher's dog. So, with the shin, you've got that heel muscle on top. I'm just going to gently seam. This is a continuation of the bit you saw in that silver side. I know over in the US you take this out whole. So again, like I showed you, you've got that bit that runs through the middle. That will go to mince, and as you can imagine, the quality of mince you're going to get from a proper animal like this, going to knock spots off that rubbish you get in your supermarket. No offence to the supermarket butchers, I've worked in one, but some of the mince, their value stuff, I wouldn't give to my dog, and my dog will eat anything. So we use that for stewing. Nice, decent stewing steak. I'm just going to tidy this up, because what I do, I'll show you. Now this really is a fantastic cut of meat, and obviously it's one of those cuts of meat you have to do slowly over time. This is a muscle that works a lot. I mean, it keeps the beef standing up, but cooked slowly, this is an amazing piece of meat. I just want to show you some cross sections. I mean, for a stew, you know, just with some vegetables, some stock, put it in the oven, leave it, forget about it, come back 3 or 4 hours later and this will melt in your mouth. And if you look at all the sinew, that all goes gelatinous and melts into the gravy. And I'll tell you, if you've got time but you want a simple meal, go and get yourself some shin, cut it into nice thick dice and just put it in. This is the simplest dish, in a pot with cold water, bring it up to the boil, let it boil for a couple of hours, you know, don't add anything, keep an eye on it, and then about half hour before the finish of cooking, just add a couple of big spoonfuls of gravy granules and you'll have the best diced steak meal ever. It's so simple. I know that you haven't got to be flash, just water, and just boil it down until it almost breaks in your hand, then add those gravy granules, and I tell you what, for a simple meal, it can't be beaten. And that, if you let that cool, put it into a pie dish, get a pack of already rolled puff pastry, put it over the top, and you've got the ultimate pie. Trust me, it's a winner, it works. Give it a go. Well folks, we're on the final furlong, and this is my trim pile and all my bits. And as you can see, there's some nice big meaty bits, and then some little bits just with bits of fat on, which will go into the mince, the ground beef. So all I'm going to do is slowly work my way through this pile, and I shall have a ground beef pile, a mince pile, and a diced beef pile. So I shall slowly work through this, and then we'll gather it all up at the end, and I'll show you what we've achieved from that lovely top of beef. And I think you'll be amazed at how much meat we got off it. Well, here's a finished product, and I know that was a long haul, and I hope you enjoyed it. I mean, we've got some fantastic meat here. Obviously we've got our silver side joints, our top side joints, our thick flank joints, that lovely shin, these marrow bones, which I'm going to cook, be one of the first recipes I do. It's like dogs crack cocaine, that marrow. Obviously you slow roast them, put that on toast. It's out of the ballpark, baby. It was rock and roll. Got some nice diced steak, and obviously I've done this myself. There's no rubbish on there, no fat. You know, that's a prime product. And again, with this ground beef, this mince, there's no horse in that. That is just pure beef. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and thanks for sticking with me. Thanks to all my subscribers. All the best to you. See you again soon.